my ears, and then you're off and running. And so this is a chance for you to talk through all the things that I asked you to write about. Now for this tutorial, I've got kind of a script, but I don't want to use just a script. I want to use it just kind of as a jumping off point. So the key thing here, the elements that really came together were the shape. The shape of the blades, I think, was an important part of this, and the texture, especially the texture of the background. I did pick that background that was kind of varied. So it had some different colors and some different cuts on it. And I just thought it worked out really well. And I think altogether it created a sense of harmony. This particular arrangement kind of had a radial balance in that all of the objects kind of go around a central point. I know it's not like a web, but it works. Lighting for this object, or lighting for this shot, and all the shots really had a really deep angle. You can kind of see that here. I remember planting the axe into the wood stump and getting that long shadow cast, and then anything that was up higher tended to cast a longer shadow. So for example, this blade right here, since it was up above, the shadow was further away than this shadow was. So that was why this was kind of a cool look. I guessed about 30 degrees. That's about the angle of the sun, maybe 35 or 40. It's around 11:30 and 12. Background choices, I kind of already talked about that, but I'll briefly go over it again. For the previous project that I tried, it was this one. I had scouted that stump, but I thought it wasn't the right background for this. And then I also determined that this was a little bit too cluttered. So I narrowed it down, thinned it out, and I had seen this stump and I thought, this is perfect. You know, all these are related to things you might use out in the woods to start a fire. So that was kind of the thought. And then the arrangements, when I went through, I think this was my first one, I realized everything was kind of spread out, and I started bringing things in closer and closer until the very end. I didn't use this one for this. This one is one of my favorites, though. It got a lot of gold. Actually, it is that picture. Just reversed it, cropped it. So yeah, I kept bringing things closer, and I kept bringing the camera closer. Even though I intended to crop it out later, I ended up starting to get confident and crop it out with the shot. So I did get a lot of nice colors and a lot of nice reflections, and I started playing around with that. And then there was one, not this one, but one of the images where I started playing around with that proportion and the magnification of one of the edges, one of the ridged edges. Cropping, I tightened this one up a lot. That's why I didn't quite recognize it at first. And I just kept kind of pulling more abstract features. So, you know, just the blade and not the handle, the blade of the axe and the blade. And it was nice that most things were cut off, and that put a little more emphasis, I would say, on the fire making element. Some of the splintered wood and the wet fire and the full image of the Bic. If I had a choice, I'd probably go with orange just to keep consistent with the color palette, but I grabbed that out of my toolbox, and that was just the one that I had. And then editing, I did do a lot of different things. I demonstrated that in class. I tried a black and white one. I tried my normal style of warmth. But this time I kind of went in the opposite direction and went towards a cold color temperature and kind of a really high contrast. I wanted to exaggerate the shadows so that the shapes were more clear. So I took a lot of the detail out by increasing, lowering the black level, and by increasing the contrast of it, and by taking detail out of the shadow. And I know it's a kind of an exaggerated photo. It's a little bit overly blue, but I kind of liked how it gave a blue tint to all the reflective surfaces, like the knife edge blade, the axe blade, and of course the lighter itself. And I feel like it kind of played into the idea of a cold winter day, and the fire would be the source of the warmth. But it was too. I went against my instinct, and it worked out well. I think I appreciated how this turned out. So that's how this one came to be.